and sisters and misses and misters, here's your daddy-o with the sounds to go. No shucking, no jive, and I'm telling you, your music's arriving. Ha ha, what I say.
Hey, I'm Largo. This is Lair, and welcome to the Infinite Playlist. And yes, Eduardo is around. If you hear him crowing, he's happy too, because tonight we're going into a special area of our musical love, the musicals. And there's quite a few of them. And to help me figure out all this musical mayhem, I've got my buddy Will, who is fortunately muted as he is burst into song.
Oh, you missed my musical intro where I sung.
I did.
Myself in. Oh, I was muted, unfortunately.
So I take it you're enjoying our musicals that we're going through right now?
I am really enjoying this musical playlist. I've been listening to it, and yeah, I've just been singing everything I'm doing. I'm like opening the fridge, pouring a drink, talking to Largo, and yeah, it just makes you just want to sing. And
Puts
I'll
a
spare
spring
all
in
of
your
you from
step.
singing. And I suggest, you all click on that playlist, open it in another tab, and listen along as we talk about these songs because, well, our special guest has prepared quite a list.
Indeed. So let's introduce our guest and the person who has got us in this musical mood, and we'll get the show on the road.
Gojitron.
To be clear, I will not be singing.
Oh, I was expecting,
It's
a
not
duet with
Gojitron the
Godzilla.
musical.
No, that's another show.
Toys on the shelf, on
We'll
the
have to
floor.
start a Patreon for that one. How you doing, Goji?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Getting there. So
We're waiting.
did you lose a bet, or is this
So I've been promising / threatening this for a while. And I don't know if you guys took me seriously because I do tend to have a sort of dry, sarcastic wit about me. So I don't know if when I said, "Oh, I'm going to do musicals," you guys just said, "Okay, sure you are."
That's exactly how I took it. Yes, I thought you were joking. And when I saw the playlist, I was like, he wasn't kidding.
Oh, shit, he meant it.
I'm
Indeed.
glad you were because I really enjoyed this one.
But it is quite a good change of pace from our normal fare.
Mhm.
And some of these I'm a fan of myself. I do like musical theater. I don't get to see it as much as I used to
Mhm.
because of my geographical location. It's not much of that in this area, but definitely brought up some fun memories for me. And some of these are
It's
new to me.
somewhat of an acquired taste. I mean, I don't know about you guys personally. I grew up watching musicals, and I don't mean like the Sound of Music or anything like that. I'm talking about The Wizard of Oz, Willy Wonka, all the Disney classic films, all the Rankin Bass holiday specials, all
Yeah,
musicals. And before the days of physical media and streaming, those were appointment viewing. They showed them once, maybe around the holidays,
Yep.
and you had to get the TV guide and mark off when it was going to be on. And if you weren't there at that time, you had to wait another 365 days. You're out of luck.
that's
So
true.
things that were musical were appointment viewing when I was a kid.
Yeah, and definitely a big influence. And of course, there have been lots of parodies of some of these that are
Mhm.
fun too. But you know, uh, the originals are a lot of fun. So we're going to kind of go through some of those that are Broadway productions, some off Broadway, some off Broadway,
Mhm.
some from the West End in London town, and some that have been made into major motion pictures.
Yep, I
So
tried to mix it up a little bit, give some theatrical versions, some film versions, and something at the end that hasn't happened yet, but maybe it will.
there you go. So yeah, very eclectic uh, dossier of
Mhm.
different things from classic Broadway all the way up into some cutting edge modern stuff. So let's take a look. Starting off with one of my favorites from back in the day.
Starring the great Tim Curry.
Oh,
Oh
he's
yeah,
brilliant. Yeah.
Mhm.
I watched the behind the scenes documentary of this, which is available on YouTube. I'll see if I can put a link in our description along with your playlist. He was really early in his career looking at trying something very avant garde and got to show off his musical chops. He's a good singer and, of course, very funny. And this is the whole thing was meant to be very camp and to be a B horror movie tribute,
Mhm.
and it does that very well. Whether you're talking about the original Rocky Horror Show, the that was done on Broadway, well, not Broadway, but on theater,
Mhm.
and obviously was made into the film not too much longer after. But
Yeah.
this originally came out. The film was in '75. The original musical production was '73, so not too far off from each other.
Mhm.
And so they borrowed heavily from early sci-fi and horror cliches and kind of mashed it all up with some cool rock and roll.
Mhm. And
So
the sets they used for the film were actually some of the sets left over from Hammer Productions. So
Oh, is
you
that
had
right?
that, yeah, you had that gothic feel about it.
yep,
Yeah.
very cool.
This Seeing this on the list just, I mean, it brought back a bunch of memories, good and bad. As you may know, I have an older sister. And she's kind of she was always the boss, and mom and dad aren't here. I'm in charge. And, so a lot of things I had to do when I was a kid. Remind me someday to tell you about the horrors of Nature Club and the
Was
things that
she
I had
the
to do.
Linus or was she the Lucy Deer Linus?
No, it was more like Brady Bunch, like rehearse the choreography songs, and we had to come
Oh,
out dancing on the Nature Club stage, and it was horrible. Horrible
oof.
memories of this. But when I was a kid, I was fooled into doing it because she was like, "This is fun," and I was like, "I guess, yeah, I'm dancing." And then later on, I was like, "Why would you make me do that?" But she was a much older than me, so I guess when this became a cult classic and they started playing this in like B movie theaters, and people would go up on stage and act, and they had these bootleg VHS versions of the movie, and they would play them at home and rehearse. And so my sister and all her girlfriends would come over, and they would be performing and making me and my brothers join in, and it was fun when I was a kid because I was getting this attention from all these girls, and dressing up and doing the fun routines with them and stuff like that. Not really kind of knowing I know the songs way too well, and then later on, I guess when I was in my later teen years, I kind of had outgrown this. So there's skills that were useless in life, but I had a good time doing it. And they would get all dressed up, and on every Friday or Saturday night, go to the theater and perform and have a great time. I never got to see one of those live, though. What about you guys? You
It
ever
was
get
a,
up there?
oh yeah, it was a
Do the
treat. I never
meatloaf?
did the cosplay, but I have
Okay.
attended and sang along with the screen. So Richard O'Brien is a British New Zealand actor, writer, musician, and television presenter. He wrote the original musical stage show, The Rocky Horror Show, in '73. It has remained in production in one form or another pretty much ever since. He co-wrote the screenplay for the film adaptation with director Jim Sharman, and he actually played in the film as Riff Raff. You see him there with Tim Curry in his role. So if you didn't know, the guy who wrote it is, the guy who's hanging out with Dr. Frankenfurter.
And when the film first premiered, very badly reviewed,
Mhm.
considered
yes.
a box office bomb, and then something happened, and it's become a classic and is now considered one of the best film musicals. So go
Yeah.
figure.
Yeah.
The soundtrack came out in '78, and
Mm-hmm.
it did marginally better than the film did.
Mm-hmm.
I just listed some of the ones that people probably know the best. Science fiction double feature, Damn It, Janet. Time Warp, of course, is the one most people know. Sweet Transvestite, sang by Tim Curry.
Mhm.
I Can Make You a Man. And Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul, by Meatloaf, a very young, charismatic Meatloaf in this film.
Yes.
I believe in the stage show, it was supposed to be, it was usually Magenta that sang science fiction double feature. So Patricia Quinn, who played Magenta, was expecting to sing it in the film. And then she found out that, Richard O'Brien was going to sing it, and she was kind of pissed off about that. But those are Patricia Quinn's lips on the famous opening. So she's just mouthing along with the words. So
There
she
you go.
did get to sing it after a fashion.
Yep. And that is the iconic image that most people have seen on the movie posters, those beautiful lips. So, as Will has pointed out, this has become a cult classic and considered to be the best of midnight movie fare. So it has a cultural phenomenon that surrounded it that kind of took on a life of its own. Over time, people began shouting responses to the character statements on screen. They started bringing props. They'd have their own one-liners that went with the show. They even, scripted everything to go in time with what was going on the screen. So they had a lot of fun with that.
Yep.
People started dressing up as their favorite characters. They'd stand up in front of the screen and act out some of the scenes. And everybody would do the time warp. So there's
Which
a
was
lot of
not a
cinemas.
common sight back then. I mean, we're over 20
Right.
years into this era of geek and nerd culture bleeding over into pop culture. So we're used to
Sure.
conventions and cosplay and people having a communal experience around the things they love. Back in 1975, not so much. It was just
No.
sort of these niche science fiction conventions, and then Rocky Horror came along and sort of blazed that trail and created a communal experience for
Yeah,
people.
like I said, I don't know if I guess we could look it up. Because the VHS that we watched was definitely dubbed, and probably a copy or a clone of something that was dubbed. It was a very poor quality copy, and I don't know if the VHS was um, readily available, but because it was a cult following, there was this network and people were passing it along and practicing and watching it over and over again. But yeah, for me, it's the first cult movie that I could think of.
Yeah.
Within my lifetime, that people,
What
kind of really
once
obsessed
it
about.
actually came out on VHS, it gained an even larger crowd. But there was always a crowd who was very much into trying to figure out which cinemas were going to replay this. There were a lot of bargain cinemas that would play this one pretty much continuously every weekend on late nights because they could, and they knew they would get people to buy tickets and come in. And although some theaters after a while stopped because of the mess that was left, because people would bring, toast and water guns and popcorn and who knew, there would be a lot of things left over after the performance.
What about you, Goji? Did you ever dress up?
I did not. No, I'm not a dress up guy. I'll enjoy the experience without the costume.
Yeah, it definitely has a weird pedigree. 20th Century Fox distributed the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and they had a long-standing policy of offering most of the films in their archive to any theater that would request them. So if you wanted an older film after its theatrical run, they would usually send that out to you with no problem.
Oh.
So that's how a lot of these theaters would play Rocky Horror as a regular weekend event. And as a result of this policy and the frequent requests for the film, it has remained in continuous circulation since its release. So somewhere at some time, it's probably playing at a theater near you, still to this day. When the Mouse House bought Fox, there was some concern that it would no longer be available. However, the powers that be decided, even though they ended the policy of letting most of the 20th Century Fox films be distributed in 2019, they made an exception for one film and one film only, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, mostly because they knew if they tried to put it in the Disney Vault, there would be a riot. And it would not be pretty.
Well, it's a good thing they avoided the fan backlash, right?
Yeah, they're so good at that. Moving right along. This has been parodied, which is weird because it's already a parody. It's also been honored and homaged in 2010 on Glee, which was a huge phenomenon in itself for, bursting into song on television. They did a whole episode paying tribute to the Rocky Horror. And they borrowed elements not only from the stage production, but also from the film, and all the cast members, got into on the fun. So that is also, I think, available. I don't know if it's available on DVD, but it is. You can still find it out there if you want to see their production. But if you're going to go to the effort, watch the original. Speaking of remakes, for some strange reason, Fox just has a fascination with Rocky Horror. They decided to do a remake called Let's Do the Time Warp Again, replacing Tim Curry's Dr. Frankenfurter with this individual who, did okay, but it just wasn't the same.
I did not know this existed. Did it gain the same popularity
no.
Following? No,
it was pretty much universally loathed by people who love the original. IMDb, they're quoted as saying, if the original Rocky Horror Picture Show is so bad it's good, then Let's Do the Time Warp Again is so good it's bad. Good in the sense that it was very polished and glamorized, which kind of took everything out of what made the original fun. So this was a dud.
Yeah, there was a while there where Fox and I think NBC had this idea in mind that they were going to put on musicals and make these big events. I think they did Peter Pan and all these other Grease, and this was a fad for a while, but none of them were really as good as the originals.
Yeah.
And this one, directed by Kenny Ortega. The only reason I know that name is because he directed High School Musical, which was a thing when my daughter was growing up. So that's the only reason I know Kenny Ortega.
Right.
And High School Musical is not on this list, in case you're wondering.
No, thank goodness. I was subjected to that. Anyway, bad memories. So, speaking of bad memories, good Lord, this is such a depressing production, but beautiful music. But when you look into the story behind it, Victor Hugo was not known for writing anything cheerful. I mean, he did Hunchback, he did this. He was not a happy guy. So, why is Les Miserables on your list, Goji?
Back in my early college days, my one of my best and oldest friends, Dan, he was the best man at my wedding. He gave me 2 CDs and said, "You need to listen to these." And one was Beastie Boys' "License to Ill," and the other one was the original Broadway cast recording of Les Miserables. And I love them both ever since.
Very
I would
good.
not have put those two together, but
Yeah, depressing story, but somehow at the end of it, through the music, you feel uplifted, even though everyone's dead.
yeah. I was gonna say
So
there's no happy endings.
It's a great
in this
achievement
at
in music
all.
if you can feel good about everybody dying, I guess.
Yes. So, yeah, the set in the 19th century, early 19th century of France. Jean Valjean, who is boy, he has a rough life.
He sure
Hunted
does.
by.
He only wanted some bread. That's all he wanted.
Yeah.
Just a little loaf of bread, and then his life was over.
Pretty much.
Tough times
So,
back in France.
Yeah. Nobody was having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It is based on, like we said, Victor Hugo's work of the same name. The song that most people know of this, even if they've never seen the musical, is "I Dreamed a Dream," and it was even released as a single, and has become a jazz standard. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and Victor Hugo was actually a young man at that time. He was in that rebellion. He wasn't in it, but he was, he was in that city when that was happening. So he was sort of writing Les Miserables from his life experience.
Interesting.
Which I think is interesting.
Definitely based on true events.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the characters were fictionalized, but based on real people, I'm sure.
And it wasn't said during the French Revolution, which a lot of people think. It was something that was a rebellion that took place after the first French Revolution. And I think the French had about 60 years worth of revolutions and rebellions until they straightened everything out.
Yeah. And they're not doing real well today either. They're still having some kerfuffles in their politics, but that's for another show. The film version was very popular, nominated in 8 different categories at the Academy Awards. It won 3 and has received lots of praise. I didn't care for it personally. I didn't think Hugh Jackman did a great job in this. He's known for doing some really good stuff on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
This one didn't really do it for me. And,
yeah, I think most people kind of look to Russell Crowe on this one and say he didn't do a good job. But Russell Crowe is an accomplished musician. He's been in several different bands over the years. He's still involved in music. I think it was the fact that when musicals are done normally, they sing the soundtrack first, and then they just lip sync when they're in the performance. But for some reason, Tom Hooper, the director, had them sing live with just a piano accompaniment in their ears. So that may be why some of the voices sound a little bit off, because they were actually singing live while they were trying to act it. So I think that had an effect. I mean, I think it's okay. And like you said, Jackman's a little bit off, Crowe's a little bit off, but overall, I think it's okay. There are other performances that are really good in it.
The version in the playlist you submitted is the original recording, right? That's
the Broadway.
And I am familiar with it. I've heard of this this play, and I've just never listened to it. And like I said, off before we started though, is I found myself, going through some emotions while listening to it. So it's very powerful, very moving music. I don't know anything about the story, but I just listened to it through, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, right? The song I selected, "One Day More," that's the final song in Act 1. So Act 1 sets up all the different characters and gives you their situations. And then Act 2 is the actual rebellion. So "One Day More" kind of tells you where all the different main characters are on the eve of this, this terrible event. And it's the one big ensemble piece in the show.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
and I've listened to this musical too many times to count. Like I know all the lyrics. It's a 3-hour musical. I know all the lyrics of every part. For some reason, it's just stuck with me. I really enjoy this one.
To each their own.
Mhm.
Just not my thing. But
Yeah.
the next one I think is universally loved.
Mhm.
Oh my
No pun
God.
intended, because the Universal Monster version is definitely one of my favorites. You know, we've often talked about Lon Chaney Sr., and this is definitely one of his most famous performances is at the Phantom in the Universal Monsters version, which itself was based on something much earlier. So this was done in the silent film era. It was done a couple of different adaptations before it became a musical. And the original author here from 1910, Gaston Leroy, is pictured here. Uh, his original story was not a romance at all. You know, the Phantom is a genius when it comes to music, but he is quite unhinged and terrorizes the opera house and poor Christine.
Mhm.
And somehow this morphed into uh, the Andrew Lloyd Webber smash hit, where
Mhm.
it's very much more of a romanticized account. Beautiful
Right.
music, um, well done. It's just when you the juxtaposition of you know the original story of the Phantom to the way he was portrayed in Broadway. It's very much more.
It's
They almost make him like
romanticized.
an anti, make him more of an
Yeah.
anti-hero instead of a
Yeah,
horror.
more like of a Beauty and the Beast type story where he's
Yeah,
misunderstood.
Mhm.
Then, well, not that I know. I'm just, I've never seen this,
Mhm.
but I love the
oh,
song.
okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it does a great job of turning this unhinged psychopath into a romantic leading man of sorts
Yeah.
via the music.
So I would say for some people, this is the only version of the Phantom that they're familiar with.
Mhm.
It opened in London's West End in '86 and then opened on Broadway in '88. Um, and this really is probably where most people heard of Sarah Brightman. She was at this time Andrew Lloyd Webber's wife and was given the role of Christine, and she did it beautifully. Beautiful voice.
Mhm.
Michael Crawford is the Phantom. The whole cast from the original Broadway production, I think, is the best version. I mean, there have been other renditions of this done since, but Brightman and Crawford together made beautiful music.
yeah.
It is considered, and I believe this is still the record, is the longest running show in Broadway history. It had over 10,000 performances. I think it just closed, recently in April of 2023 was its final Broadway performance. So,
Growing up right outside of New York City, most of the local channels would play commercials for Broadway. You know that Cats. I mean, it might have been all over the country, but we got commercials for all of this stuff all the time. And I never once went to Broadway and watched a show, so that was the work for me. But yeah,
you missed a treat.
wonderful.
I think you would have enjoyed it. Um, I threw this in because I thought it was rather humorous.
Mhm.
Uh, there have been several news articles about Andrew Lloyd Webber being accused of plagiarism in some of his music. Uh, one of the more
I did not
humorous
know that.
versions was from the former Pink Floyd songwriter Roger Waters. He was quoted as saying he thought Phantom of the Opera, the song from the musical, pretty much ripped off Echoes by Pink Floyd from '71. His quote is, it says it's the same signature, it's in 12/8, it's the same structure, it's the same notes, it's the same everything. Said it's probably actionable, but he never sued Lloyd Webber. He said basically, life's too long to bother with suing Andrew effing Lloyd Webber. So it's like, I know you ripped me off, but I just don't care. So I don't know. I just thought that was humorous.
Mhm.
So
I now have to go listen to them and see.
I would recommend it. Pink Floyd's always a good thing to listen to. But shifting gears to another fun one. This was one of my favorite movies. My kid was super into this, so it got played on the VCR quite often.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I knew I had to include something from the Disney Renaissance in here because it was such a
oh yeah,
important time for animation and musicals and sort of the resurgence of Disney and all that goodwill that they've now pissed away. But that's another story. Anyway,
pretty much.
Aladdin
Yeah, back
came
in
out. Yeah, Aladdin came out at the dating myself the year my wife and I got married. So that's why I picked this one because we honeymooned at Disney World, and the big
Oh,
Main Street parade was Aladdin themed. So,
how
and
was it?
yep.
That's awesome.
very
Plus,
cool.
plus the great Robin Williams in this. So this,
Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah.
Let me just tell you
So
something about this movie, because this
okay,
is a zinger. Yeah, did not watch this when I had kids. I was 1992. I was 17 years old. Just got my license. I saw a news review show, and they were touting that this included computer generated animation. In the one scene where he's flying through the Cave of Wonders, I think, right, where
Cave
he's
of
trying to escape.
Wonders.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There, he is. There's some computer animated like lava and stuff like that, and I saw it, and I was just instantly. So I drove to the mall to one of those stores, Sam Goody, or what was it called, Suncoast Video or something, and
Mhm.
I bought it.
Yeah.
And all my friends were like, "Nah, I don't want to watch it." And so I watched it, and I absolutely love this movie. This was like comfort food for me for many, that whole time period in my life. And yeah, so just seeing this on the list just brightened up my day. I absolutely love it. I know there's that Aladdin figure that Gojitron even sent me a picture of. He's like 3/4 inch. I gotta get it. And there he is, my boy. I haven't seen it yet, and I'm just I can't wait because I love it. I love this version of the movie, and of course showed it to my kids. And every time it comes on, I watch it. Um, just absolutely great. And I think you picked was it Friend Like Me, which is just such a
Yep.
Mhm.
fantastic
The big
song.
showstopper.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Prince
Robin
Ali is
Williams.
my favorite song on the album, and I think I actually went and bought this, like the soundtrack, and listened to it in my car. And my friends would be like, "What the hell is this?" Uh,
It's a great
and
soundtrack.
yeah, I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, as Goji mentioned, this was part of the renaissance of Disney. Disney had been through a slump. They had
Hmm.
tried doing some other things. They, started up Touchstone, the Black Hole didn't go anywhere. Tron
Mhm.
wasn't very good, and a lot of their live action comedy stuff just wasn't funny. And they hadn't really done much with animation that was equal to their earlier years that they had been known for.
Right.
Then they came up with what was it, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin, and those were so well
Oh,
done. So they were really getting back to their. This was kind of where they were at the top of their game again for a while.
Yep.
And it went
Definitely.
back downhill after that, but
Yeah, they peaked with
Aladdin was
Lion
definitely one of
King, and then
those.
they peaked with Lion
Right.
King, and then it kind of had a little bit of a downward slide.
Yeah. So yeah, this soundtrack was very popular at my house. We enjoyed this one. Friend Like Me by Robin Williams was really well done. It was my favorite of all the ones on there. But the romantic, I Can Show You the World was the one that probably sold more copies than anything else.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, in typical Disney fashion, being the evil overlords they are, they screwed over Robin Williams.
Yep. They
He
did him
did this
dirty.
for. They did him dirty. He did this for a fraction of his normal fee because he wanted to do it for the kids. He
Right.
loved the character. They let him ad lib a lot of stuff, but he
they made
very
it look like him.
specifically.
They made the character
They
look
did.
like him, and I
Yeah.
mean,
The animators, I don't know if they went back and changed things because he was doing the voiceover to things they'd already put into production. But yeah, it was a great connection. He is the genie. He did a wonderful job with this. But he made it very clear. It's like I don't want to be used in the marketing. Don't play up my role in this. And they had made an agreement with him, and then decided to go back on it. Jeffrey Katzenberger was the evil overlord. I mean the studio
yeah,
chairman at the time,
a
and he
douchebag.
totally
Because
yeah
like, how can you screw over Robin Williams? Like, how do you do that? Like, you have to be just pure evil. He must like
Well.
kick puppies for fun because
You have to be a heartless corporation.
Indeed. So, yeah, they tried to make nice with him, but he didn't come back for the Return of Jafar sequel. They did another sequel later, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, he came
He
back.
did come back and
second sequel, the
Yeah.
direct to DVD.
right.
I wanted to
But,
like it. Hey, Robin Williams was also good as Batty in Fern Gully.
That's true.
Do you remember that movie? No.
Oh yeah, vaguely. Tim Curry was in that one also as a villain.
He played the smog dude. I forget what that is. Oh,
Yep.
Another
But
one.
another great misunderstood villain. I'm a big Tim Burton fan, and this is just fun. Definitely not what you would consider a kiddie show. It's just I wouldn't give this to a young child. It's just not something I would expect. And Disney really didn't know what to do with it. Again, they released it through Touchstone because they felt that would be too dark and scary for kids. I would agree with that. But this is something, Tim Burton had rolling around in his head for a long time, had a hard time finding a place to put it where he could get it produced, but eventually got it done. And the stop motion in this is fantastic. It's just well done. So the story in and of itself is fun, and the music is, of course, fantastic.
And talking about getting done dirty, because they put Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas in the title, a lot of people don't realize it was Henry Selick that directed this and not Tim Burton.
That's true. He produced it. He wrote the story, but it was Selick that did the direction.
Yeah.
And I want to say Danny Elfman did a lot of the score on this.
Yeah.
Which
Danny
is not
Elfman
surprising.
Absolutely kills it because he is the singing voice of Jack Skellington. He sings his roles, and they had another voice actor who voiced him. But yeah, it's just, I freaking love this movie. This is around the same time. This is another one. I got my car, drove out, bought it, watched it, bought the soundtrack, listened to it in my car. My friends thought I was a dork. I didn't care. I even got pulled over and almost arrested by the police because of this guy right here on screen, Mr. Jack. Because I bought a bendy of Jack Skellington and I hung him from my rearview mirror, and he was waving to everyone as I drove around. And some eagle-eyed police officer picked it up and spotted it, pulled me over to tell me that was obstructing my view. And I did not think it was, so I was a smart ass, and I argued back that, if anything, he was enhancing it, because I would look lovingly at him and check my rear view all the time, where I forget and then he gave me one of those, like, "You want to break your face, kid?" And I was like, "All right, calm down, I'll take it off, please."
So you almost went to jail because of Jack Skellington.
Yeah, because I was trying to argue the point that because he was there, I looked at my mirror more often to admire.
That's right. You can't use logic and reason with some peace officers. This actually came from a poem that Burton wrote while he was working as an animator for Walt Disney, and long before he became well known in certain circles. He just couldn't get this off the ground. But eventually, as he gained some notoriety, he was able to pull and say, "Hey, I've got this project." So it tells the story of Jack Skellington, who is the king of Halloween Town, finds his way into Christmas Town and decides he's going to take over St. Nick's job. And
I love this one because it is all the old Rankin Bass holiday specials through Tim Burton's twisted lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And we're coming up on Jack Skellington season. Halloween's almost here. And because Nightmare Before Christmas has become such a cult classic, every Halloween you're going to get new Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise.
Have you seen like the blow-ups and big standees? I mean, these stores are like just mind-blowing with the amount of detail and stuff. I saw an Oogie Boogie man that's like 6 feet tall, and he blows up and everything, and he's moving around. I can't believe that they can make this. I was happy to get a little bendy, a little Bendum figure back when this thing came out. But yeah,
Halloween is big business in the States.
Absolutely.
So, and as Will pointed out, Danny Elfman wrote the songs and the score, and he is the singing voice of Jack.
Fun fact: the
Yep.
speaking voice of Jack is oh geez, I forget his name, but you'll
Chris
know him
Sarandon.
because he was Prince Humperdinck,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he also played who's the guy in Fright Night? Oh, he played the vampire in Fright Night.
The vampire.
Yeah,
I can't remember the vampire's name in that, but yeah, he plays in that. That's a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
such a good actor. Yeah,
Princess Bride, one of the most quotable movies ever.
oh, of course,
Absolutely.
I'll fight anyone that disagrees.
Another favorite of mine. I actually read the book when it came out and
Oh.
really enjoyed it, and then learned that it was turned into a musical, and really cool. So, if you're not familiar with the storyline, basically, Wicked starts with the two girlfriends, Glinda, before she's Glinda the Good Witch, and the Wicked Witch, who is it Elba? Elbia?
Felba.
Felba.
Felba, yeah.
You get to meet her as a young student, kind of in a Hogwarts-esque setting where they're learning their craft. And so you see, the behind the scenes. Basically, you find out why she becomes known as the Wicked Witch of the West.
Mhm.
And it's a fun story. It's well done, and the musical is neat. So Wicked is based on a book, and that book is obviously based on the original book by Frank Baum of The Wizard of Oz. So it takes those characters and shows us a different version of them.
And 2 words why this is on my list: Idina Menzel. I love Idina Menzel. So most people watching will probably know her better as the voice of Elsa from Frozen, and that earworm of a song that came out back when the movie came out. But she's an old veteran of Broadway. She's been called the Queen of Broadway. She was in Rent. She's been in the 2 Enchanted movies with Amy Adams and what's his name? Patrick Dempsey.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in the film version of Rent as well. Really fantastic, powerful singing voice, really powerful stage presence.
Didn't someone butcher her name at the
yes,
Oscars
when the song from Frozen was nominated for an Academy Award, John Travolta introduced her as Adele Dazeem. I'm not sure how much he had to drink that night.
Quite a bit, I'd imagine.
Luckily, Ellen DeGeneres was the host, and after she, Idina went on and knocked the song out of the park because she's an old theater pro, so she didn't let that shake her. But after the song was over, Ellen DeGeneres made a point of saying, Idina Menzel, ladies and gentlemen. Idina just kept repeating her correct name.
Yeah,
so
the people would know.
But
we find out that Elphaba was actually quite an activist and a lover of animals. And she goes toe-to-toe with the wizard, who we find out is not a nice guy. He's kind of a jerk. And so she gets painted as the wicked one, but perhaps she's misunderstood. And there is the beauty herself.
Mm-hmm.
Defying Gravity is the signature song from Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
It's the finale of the first act when Elphaba discovers that the wizard is not quite as heroic as everyone thinks he is, and she decides that she's going to break with the crowd. Glinda is trying to tell her to play nice, work with everybody, and she's not having it. She's like, no, this is wrong, and I'm going to fight this. So she casts her lot with the wizard, and things ensue. So,
and fans have noticed a lot of similarities between this song and "Let It Go" from Frozen. Sort of the same mood for both songs. Both characters she played begin with the letter E. She co-starred with someone named Kristen in both of them, Kristen Chenoweth in Wicked and Kristen Bell in Frozen. So a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Well, I was completely unaware of the entire song, everything, but you know what? The song was beautiful. I'm glad it was on the list. I really enjoyed listening to it, and even without any context, it drew me in. So
I would say if you like Frozen and you like the songs in that, this is better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this is a much more entertaining piece and good story.
Mhm.
And hopefully everyone will get a chance to see it soon. This has been in adaptation hell for a long time. They've been trying to make a major motion picture of this for several years. And then, of course, the COOF came up during the pandemic. Everything got shut down. However, as we're recording this, it is still slated to be released in 2024. They're going to split it into 2 movies. So part 1 will come out in 2024. Part 2 will be released in 2025. So
Well,
hopefully
let's
we'll
hope
see
they
that.
do it justice and they do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably
So-
subject to change with everyone on strike right now. But
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't
I'm
know.
not
how
sure
that's
how
affecting
far
us
they
either.
are in the production. I haven't even heard any casting news on this. Hopefully they get someone decent in the casting, not like we didn't discuss it before, but the Phantom of the Opera film adaptation, when they cast
Ugh.
Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
Gerard Butler's
That
not a
was-
singer.
No.
Was it
Don't
bad?
do that.
Yeah,
Bad
I
choice.
never
Don't
saw
do
it.
that, Hollywood.
I'll skip that one.
Yeah. Always better to get the Broadway actors and actresses if possible, because
Mhm.
they're the ones that really make it. So we'll see what they do with it. Hopefully it'll be good. Another classic favorite of mine, Spamalot. Monty Python's Spamalot is based on Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the 1975 film. It doesn't follow the film directly. It's an homage more. It takes a lot of pieces from it and then peppers in pieces from other things that Monty Python's done over the years. Very well done. It has won 14 different Tony nominations, including Best Musical, where it won. It was not loved by all of Python, though.
Is that right?
It was basically Eric Idle. This was his baby.
Right.
The rest of the Pythons are old and crusty and just want to retire and be left alone. They don't want to really rehash Python stuff. But he was like, hey, this would be fun. And they're like, yeah, okay, you know what, Eric, just do it. Whatever you want to do. So
Yeah.
They
When was
they
this?
got paid.
Tim Curry was in it. Wow. That's amazing.
Yes. In the original Broadway and West End productions, Tim Curry stars as King Arthur and does a wonderful job.
Mhm.
Very, very good in this.
Yep.
This song
And
killed me.
Yeah.
I never heard of it before, so I was just listening. I'm like, what is this? Just
oh, you never saw The Life of Brian, or
I've seen both those movies. I've seen The Life of
Oh,
Brian.
okay.
I've seen but I've never seen Spamalot or heard the song before. But
Oh,
I thought
okay.
it was just great. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Eric Idle, not just a funny comedian, very talented songwriter as well.
yeah.
And for
And
you kids
before
from
the
the
sh-
80s, Eric Idle was Wreck-Gar in Transformers the movie.
That's
Just so
right.
you
That's
have
true.
someone to identify with.
Some reference, yes. But before his Transformers fame, he was a member of a very funny British comedy troupe, the Monty Python, and their show, Monty Python's Flying Circus, was a huge staple of British television for a long time. A lot of cheeky bits, naughty bits, and intellectual humor.
I think I
And
discovered
so-
Flying Circus on the public broadcasting station when I was around 12 or 13, and I just got hooked. You know, even though I
yeah.
didn't understand at the time most of the cultural references they were using from
Sure.
the UK, it was still just hilarious.
Yeah.
And,
Just from the
and I think Monty Python is where I get my love of the bizarre and the
Yeah.
weird humor. Just
Same here.
They were all fantastic.
Yeah, and yeah, so this was kind of like Eric's love letter to the fans when he did Spamalot,
Mhm.
because he definitely took some of the best parts and put it all together. The song we're talking about is "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life," which in this case, Dear Patsy sings it to King Arthur as he's down on his luck and has lost his knights. The song was originally used in the film Life of Brian in a very different context, which I won't spoil for you, and was sung by Eric Idle in the film of Life of Brian. Portions of Spamalot's original cast recording were featured along with some flash animation as a special feature in the 2006 Extraordinary Deluxe 2-disc edition DVD release of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So if you happen to have that version, you have a behind the scenes bit of Spamalot.
And I believe this song has become something of an anthem in the UK. I think they sing it at football games. They sing it at funerals. I know the troupe sang it at Graham Chapman's funeral.
Nice.
And I read a story where during the Falklands War, there was a British ship that got hit. It was sinking. And the sailors sang this while they were waiting to be rescued.
Oh,
So
wow.
hugely popular in the UK.
Yeah.
Well, we have some friends in the UK that are usually in the comments. Please let us know in the comments how this is used, whether it's a football rally or a funeral favorite now. Maybe it's replaced Danny Boy. Who knows? Moving right along to some American fare. This is one I wasn't terribly familiar with, but it's been super popular. Hamilton, based on Alexander Hamilton, his biography from 2004 by Ron Chernow. This musical was written by a fellow by the name of Lin-Manuel Miranda. He is an interesting guy. He juxtapositions classic Broadway fare with modern rap and storytelling, and does a really good job. He kind of takes history and makes it breathe, I guess. Miranda himself, he described Hamilton as America then, as told by America now. So it's very much from the lens of modern sensibility, looking back at Hamilton's life and the events around him.
Yeah, this was definitely a cultural phenomenon when it came out in 2015. I know that the cast performed at the White House, and then President Obama and his wife were big fans of this. Yeah. And they did an introduction for it at the Tony Awards the year they were nominated. So,
wasn't there also like a running joke that even like you saw in pop culture and other shows with like people using tickets to go see Hamilton as like a bribe to get something? Like, because it was so sought after to go see this show before its initial run ended.
And even though it wasn't 100% historically accurate, it was still used by teachers to get kids, interested in American history, which a lot of kids these days, as we know, don't know jack squat about our nation. So it's a good introductory tool to get them to, get interested in the subject and then teach them the actual history.
Yeah, and it's very good for that. Miranda made his Broadway debut writing the music and lyrics and starring in the musical In the Heights in 2008. He won Tony Awards for that. And that springboarded into being able to do Hamilton, which he also stars in as Alexander Hamilton. You write it, you get to star in it. So it works out pretty well.
Yeah. During the singing parts, Lin-Manuel's not the strongest singer. He can rap. He's not the strongest singer. He was smart enough to surround himself with really great performers, which kind of helped, propel the show.
Yeah, and you see him here in his role as Alexander Hamilton. Yorktown, The World Turned Upside Down is the song that you chose for the playlist. Recounts the story of the Battle of Yorktown, which may or may not be historically accurate as to what happened as far as the song is concerned.
Right.
The song takes its title from an English ballad, which, according to legend, was performed by the British Army Band on the orders of Lord Cornwallis during their retreat. Whether this is historically accurate or not is not known, but it was incorporated into the story after that siege. So the idea of the British basically saying the world has been turned upside down, these upstart rebels are giving us a walloping, maybe it's accurate, but it's fun nonetheless.
Yeah, Lin-Manuel has great wordplay in his lyrics. Just, you listen to it a couple of times and you hear something different every time. Just great use of language throughout the lyrics.
And the story of how humanized Hamilton is in this, the idea that he is, he's not a founding father yet. He's young, he's brash, he's intelligent, and he's in over his head in a lot of cases.
And he certainly didn't shy away from showing the flaws of the man in the musical. His
womanizing
and all that is covered.
Like most of the founding fathers, he was not a perfect guy. He just happened to be the right guy at the right time in the right place.
And also the character of Aaron Burr too, which was
Yes.
played by Leslie Odom Jr. That's got a lot of multiple layers too. He's not just the guy that shot Hamilton. You find out
Right.
through the musical their rivalry over the years and what led up to it.
Right.
They
He
did
might have
story.
just cause.
a movie version, or is it just a recording of the play?
They filmed, it's a recording of the show that's available on Disney Plus. But they did a good job recording it, so you can, see everything and good camera angles and all.
Yeah,
I think this was one that was also shown on PBS during their fundraiser special. I think they showed the recording of this there.
Okay.
So it's available if you want to see it. This one has recently come out, The Greatest Showman. Interesting story. Again, not exactly historically accurate.
Oh, not historically accurate at all. This is basically a fictionalized account of P.T. Barnum's life. Yes. There's nothing historically accurate about this at all.
It's pretty fair to say that P.T. Barnum was not a nice guy at all in real life. However,
he's very idealized.
Yes, he's very charming in the musical, and this is one where Hugh does a really good job. I like this performance. And it kind of goes more into the story of the performers, the people who are, the old term was, people from carnival times and the freak shows who weren't treated well. And they portray Barnum as being someone who elevated them. That's not historically accurate at all.
Right.
Yeah.
He exploited them a lot.
I was going to say elevated, more like exploited. Yeah.
It's certainly done as a feel-good story through a modern lens, looking back.
Yes. He was part of the creation of the Barnum and Bailey Circus. That part's true. Anyway, it's fun. If you don't care about historical accuracy and you like fun costumes and good musical numbers, check this one out.
Yeah, and all the performers in this are really good too. Jackman, Zac Efron, Zendaya, they all do a great job.
And again, the soundtrack for this was released shortly after the motion picture. The Greatest Show and This Is Me were the big ones that they promoted. The one that is on our playlist is The Other Side, which I like. It's a really good one, especially if you look at it in the context of where it is in the story. Zac Efron plays the Broadway theater producer Philip Carlyle, who was a real person, and Jackman's Barnum is trying to recruit him to help grow the audience. He wants to be, not just the hayseeds coming in. He wants his money.
He wants his money.
So he's trying to figure out how to polish what he's got and make it more palatable to a larger audience. And results may vary, but
I picked this song because
when you think of the circus,
I really like the choreography of this scene as well as the performance. It's a really well choreographed scene, and you see the bartender in the middle there. The bartender is an integral part of the scene, even though he does not sing. He sort of facilitates all the movements, pouring the drinks and moving the stools around that Jackman kind of jumps up on and sweeping the floor. He's always in the scene, facilitating the other characters. It's a really well choreographed scene.
Well, I did enjoy the song, and I think I'll check out the scene now.
The only scenes I could find of this on YouTube were the ones where people put the lyrics over the picture, and I don't like to watch it like that. So
no, that sucks.
This is on Disney though; it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah. So is there a part though later on in the movie where where he sings like how to create a unicorn by gluing a horn onto a goat and parading around? Because when
they
I was
cut that
10,
part out.
We went to the circus to see the unicorn, and it was probably the biggest disappointment of our lives.
Oh yeah,
I have a
the unicorn and his. Was he
like
the one that created the Fiji mermaid too? Was that his?
Oh, did he? Oh my God, that was.
Yeah, basically took a monkey and a fish and sewed them together. But yeah. Anyway, the real Barnum was kind of a schmuck, but this version's fun.
But Hugh Jackman is charming.
He is.
Oh my God.
This was a great surprise, Goji. I did not know anything about this project.
Holy
epic.
shit.
And it is
Can
epic.
I just tell you?
The reimagining.
I often just put on my my music app and let it run, and the algorithm lets me listen to stuff I might like. And I heard a song come on one day that I never heard before, and the singer is mentioning Agamemnon, Menelaus, Penelope, and I'm like, that's Odysseus,
This is
because
the
I'm a big
Odyssey.
Greek mythology nerd. I know
Yes.
all
Oh
those
yeah.
characters. So after I heard that song, I looked into this project, and it's a musical in production. He's currently writing it, and as we'll see in another couple of slides, he's releasing the songs as little bits called sagas, and he's professionally recording them, casting them, and releasing them as EPs basically. And so far, there are 2 sagas out, which we'll see later. But so far, I really like what I hear out of this. And as a big
I
Greek mythology
I
nerd
love
and a
it
musical
because
nerd,
I
it,
didn't
it,
know
it
what it
hits all the right
was,
buttons.
and I just saw the word epic. I clicked on it, and yes, I was listening to this. Oh my god! I'm like, oh, 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 this is, oh my god, this is the Odyssey. Like it really, the revelation was just amazing. It was great,
Mhm.
and I'm sure if you knew what it was about going into it, you'd still enjoy it. I went
Yeah.
on outside of this and started listening to, someone had a compilation of all of the released parts so far, and they are all great, but this one itself is just amazing.
Mhm.
What's neat about this is it's a modern interpretation, but it uses a lot of elements from video game and animation and anime in the styling of what they're producing. And it's really a group project. The young man who's putting this together has reached out to people from many different talents, whether it be musicians or singers or graphic artists. And everybody's on board. They're like, let's make this thing work. And it's cool to watch this thing come together.
Mhm.
And I've got a link here. I'll put in the description below as well. Epic the Musical. You can watch their progress as they
So good.
move forward.
Yeah, and he mostly
as-
releases things on TikTok, which I don't use
Mhm.
TikTok, but luckily he mirrors things on YouTube, and he's also
Yeah.
got an Instagram account if you want to follow along.
Yeah, the Cyclops
Yeah,
saga
see,
just
there's
just
several of several of the pieces are on the YouTube Shorts, and he has his YouTube channel as well.
Mhm.
These are the 2 sagas that are available now,
Mhm.
which are the first of several to come, and definitely follow the story from the events that happen in Troy, what happens on the island with the Cyclops. If you know your Greek mythology, it's hitting on every cylinder here, and
Mhm.
really cool.
Yep.
This is the young man,
wow.
Jorge Rivera Herranz, and he is just neat. He's a neat guy, full of energy. He's writing the play, he's composing, he's putting the lyrics together and acting out some of the pieces.
And he plays Odysseus.
Yes.
So, like
And
Lin-Manuel Miranda played Hamilton, he's going to be Odysseus, and so far I really like what I've heard from it. He's doing a good
I
job.
mean, he's a little young for
Yeah.
for my idea of Odysseus, but he's got the voice and he does a great job. So it'll be
Mhm.
fun to see how this comes together when it's actually a musical production.
Mhm.
So it's very non-traditional
Yep.
in its approach, and it really works well. So
Yeah.
there's his YouTube
I was
link and his Instagram
absolutely
link there
blown
as
away
well.
by this,
Yeah.
and
And the song
so
I
happy.
picked, is from the Cyclops saga, and it's where they're in the cave, they're trapped in the cave, and the Cyclops has just killed several of his men, and he's given him some roofied wine to put him to sleep, and they're trying to come up with
Right.
a plan on how to escape, which we know they stab him in the eye. But
Yeah.
I like that
Spoilers.
song because, spoiler alert for something that's 5,000 years old. I like that song because it's got that driving guitar riff behind it and the percussion that just
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
builds and builds and builds while he's frantically trying to figure out this plan, how to save his men, how to get out of the cave, and it just really well
And
done.
I love the callback to when he tells the Cyclops who he is, and then
Of
the
course.
Right,
Cyclops
which
is
is
trying
his
to explain
downfall
it.
because if you know the
Yes.
story, he introduces
Yes.
himself as nobody. So when the
Mhm.
Cyclops is stabbed and he's crying in pain, his brothers come to the cave and say, "What's going on? Nobody has stabbed me. Nobody is killing me." And his brothers say, "Well, if no one's killing you, shut up."
Yeah.
But then when they escape, his Odysseus's rage and
Oh,
pride gets the best of him, and he announces, "I'm the king of Ithaca, Odysseus," not knowing that
But that part
Polyphemus the
is,
Cyclops is the son
Yeah.
of Poseidon, god
Yeah.
of the ocean he has to cross to get home. So he kind of
Yeah.
screws
Not
himself.
smart. Yeah.
no, but just
But
oh my god, every part of that song is just fantastic, and
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it and went back and just listened to all of it. And yeah, that whole Cyclops saga, just so good. So Jay,
yeah.
bravo, man.
So please,
that is such a good.
definitely check this one out. Links are in the description along with everything else in Goji's playlist, which we will recap here. This was fun. It was
Yeah.
challenging because it's going through a lot of material, not just a typical playlist, but the shows that encompass them. But I really enjoyed this, with the exception of Les Mis. I don't like that one. But other than that,
That's where we part ways.
that's right.
Like I said,
But
a lot of great memories and some epic, new discoveries. So thank you so much, Gojitron. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you guys
This
enjoyed
is
it.
one of the most enjoyable. I know I say it every episode. This is one of the most enjoyable.
this one's the best one ever
This
until
is
the next
best one ever. Everyone gets better.
Maybe we
And
can do part 2 someday.
I would love
Yeah.
The
to.
Lion
there's-
King, Beetlejuice, the musical, plenty out there.
As I
X-Men, the
mentioned to
musical,
Goji off
starring,
screen, it's like little shop of horrors. We got to touch on
Little
that
shop,
someday.
yep.
So we'll do a part 2 of this, just like we're going to get together with Stu and go back over some other cool scores and soundtracks. So this is fun. Thanks to everyone who has made submissions. I have several playlists that I'm working on from subscribers like you who said, "Hey, I can do a playlist." Like, bring it. So email is in the link, and just send me 10 songs and we'll put something together, and you too can hang out here in the lounge. So thanks
The music
to
never
our
stops.
guests. That's right. Goes
The
on and
playlist
on
is
and on.
infinite.
So thank you, Goji, for being our guest tonight.
Thank you for having
thank
me.
you, Will, for hanging out and experiencing all
thank
this
you.
good stuff.
And you. And
Wilhelm
you,
the
and you.
musical
Coming soon to some
in 1/18 scale.
bathroom.
Yes, only in 1/18 scale.
Loki has to star though. I can
He
definitely
does.
see
He does.
Loki in
Just so
118.
mischievous, he's always up to
Absolutely.
Loki's a diva. He needs a big number. Loki is not low key.
That's
something.
right.
No, not at all.
But and on that note, what you've all been waiting for, watching me act silly on camera. So everybody have fun. We'll see you on the next episode of The Infinite Playlist. Bye.
Good night.